Okay, so hey everyone, we're doing a senior panel for the board members and the general members. I'm Josh Serrata. I'm the director of the Senior Advisory Council for IISE. I've gathered some awesome seniors who have great experiences and some unique experiences who are going to talk about them a little bit. And so I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with Katie.
Hey guys, I'm Katie Potler. My internship experience, I have interned with Lowe's in one of their distribution centers, and then I did a co-op with Disneyland in California, and then I did a internship with PricewaterhouseCoopers in tech consulting. I have not done study abroad or research. COVID kind of ruined that, but I hear it's great. Club experiences, I'm obviously very involved in IISE and then also Purdue Solutions and the Collegiate Consulting Association. And plans after college, I'm going to join PwC full-time in Chicago and kind of see what happens from there.
Hi guys, my name is Allie. My internship experiences, after my sophomore year, I worked at Procter & Gamble in their supply chain area. And then after my junior year, I worked at a small grocery chain as an industrial engineering intern. It's called Schnucks, based in St. Louis. For study abroad and research, I also have not studied abroad, but I am doing research starting this semester. I started doing research with Mario Ventresca. He's the 332 professor. So I'm doing a little bit of essentially computer programming with him for research. In terms of clubs, I'm also very involved in IISE. I'm a resident assistant on campus, and then I also do a lot with the Women in Engineering program. And then after graduation, I'll be joining Deloitte, also in Chicago, as a solutions engineering analyst.
Hi, my name is Lucy Gleason, internship experience. So after my sophomore year, I worked with Bowen Engineering, not Boeing, I know it sounds very similar, and they're construction based out of Indianapolis. So I was actually in West Lafayette for that summer working on a combined sewage overflow tank. And then after that, I went to Kimberly-Clark for the next summer and fall. So it was kind of like a mini co-op. It wasn't in for 3 or 5 terms or anything like that. It was just a 7-month stretch. And so I was down in Roswell, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. And I was working on the fabrics that go into their products. And then last summer, or summer 2020, I was supposed to be working for Medline as an engineer. And that got kind of thrown off with COVID. And so they just kind of made more of an engagement opportunity. So I got to network within the company and just learn more about them. And then I accepted a full-time opportunity, and I'll be graduating in December. So I'll be heading to Chicago. We're on a roll here, so keep it up, Lauren. And working with Medline full-time. In college, I did not do any study abroad. I am doing research right now. I'm doing it with a professor named Professor Haas, and he's in the School of Industrial Engineering as well as the School of Nursing. So we're working on an elder abuse metric tool right now. So a lot of literature research there. Other clubs, I was in Greek life. I was heavily involved in Relay for Life and a little bit involved with Society of Women Engineers with a lot of volunteer opportunities over the past 4 years.
Amazing. So my name is Lauren Heiss. After freshman year, I was a product development intern at a high-tech construction startup in Israel. After that, I was a lean manufacturing intern at Diffuse Synthes, which is a subsidiary of Johnson & Johnson. This past summer, I was supposed to be a supply chain consultant, but ended up serving as a business development intern at a biopharmaceutical startup that was in the middle of pivoting from cancer drugs to a COVID-19 treatment. So really interesting timing. Last semester, I was in Madrid for about 2 months before we had to escape. It was super fun. Josh and Julie were there too, so good times. For clubs, over the summer, I started the Boilermaker Consulting Group. I'm a member of the Purdue Engineering Student Council, a College of Engineering ambassador, and then also a part of IISE. After college, I will be in Chicago. I'll be working as a business solutions consultant at a consulting firm for manufacturing and distribution.
Hello, I'm Harrison Smith. And as far as internships go, after my freshman year, I was a quality intern at Hydroforce, and they do hydraulic equipment for a lot of the big agricultural companies like Caterpillar and John Deere. After that, after my sophomore year, I was an industrial process engineer at Epstein, which is an architecture firm in downtown Chicago. And that was designing floor plans. And then last summer, I was an associate consultant intern for Milliman, and they do consulting within strategy and marketing for pharmaceutical drugs. And then after that, I'm going to be going and joining Deloitte in Chicago as well as an analyst. As far as studies abroad, I was going to do a study abroad this past summer, but unfortunately COVID decided that was not going to happen. I wish I had gotten the opportunity to do that. Clubs, I'm involved in Purdue Solutions, IISE, and then I'm also involved in Greek Life.
Hi everyone, my name is Julie. So internship experience wise, this past summer I worked at United Launch Alliance located in Denver, Colorado. So it's like a rocket launch company, kind of stemmed from defense companies, Boeing and Lockheed Martin. So really cool there, getting to be like an industrial engineer among like space and defense and everything. So I definitely recommend that area if you're interested in it. Study abroad, I was also in Madrid this past spring with Lauren and Josh, and also Tim. If Tim watches this video, shout out to Tim and Leo, and Ava. Okay, sorry, anyways. So I did study abroad then in Madrid, and then I also did a study abroad my freshman year in Colombia on a Maymester. So that was really cool. It counted for a class, one of my tech electives actually. So that was pretty neat. And then club experiences, I'm in IISE obviously. I also do intramural sports and some stuff with the church that I go to. Yeah, that pretty much covers it. And then plans after college, I'm planning on working full-time as a systems engineer for United Launch Alliance out in Denver still. So.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So now we'll open up for questions. Not to put Cindy on the spot, but if you have any, feel free to shout them out. And if you don't, that's fine too. I can ask a few questions and then and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I have one question. And so since industrial engineering is so broad, like manufacturing, supply chain, consulting, like how did you discover which path you wanted to follow? Yeah, that's it.
I can speak to this a little bit because I kind of just did it by process of elimination. So I've had internships in kind of a couple different areas. So I had like a very supply chain manufacturing focused internship, and then I had one that was more like operations, and then I had a consulting one. And so basically I just tried to get as many like internship experiences as I could. And I was like, well, I didn't like supply chain, so now I'll try this instead. And then I didn't like this, so I'll try something else. That was really the way that I figured it out. But also I would say, like, you don't have to know when you graduate what you want to do with your degree yet. Like, I'm sure, like, I'm going into consulting now, but I'm sure that, like, that will probably change in 5 years. So, like, if you don't figure it out while you're in college, that's okay.
I'd also recommend just joining organizations on campus because it is really hard to get a bunch of internships. So there are organizations and people on campus who can help you kind of find out what your passion is and give you experiences that are similar to the internship experience.
Adding on to that, I guess kind of what you're doing right now, talking to upperclassmen is also a really good way to understand what you might enjoy or not enjoy after you graduate. I honestly did not know what I wanted to do up until like 2 months ago. And so I was talking to a bunch of upperclassmen that I had met and who have graduated at this point to understand what they were doing, what they interned in, and what they were doing now that they had graduated. And so essentially talking to upperclassmen can be a really good resource as well to figure out which area of industrial engineering is a good fit for you.
Also, kind of taking Allie's answer one step further is always just networking. If you do have the opportunity to meet someone, even if it's just, a guest lecturer, get their email. And if you're interested in what they do, talk to them about what career path they took, what trainings or education they have, things like that. And then if you're at an internship, it's really important to like get out of, your assigned role. So like if you're doing supply chain, reach out to the quality departments or marketing or anything else that you might be interested in, and ask to have a 30-minute conversation with them and just try to learn as much as you can while you're there and you have those people available.
Thank you so
Oh,
much. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
thanks everyone. No, you're good. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, so I'm a sophomore and I'm also an international student with almost no work experience. So how do you maximize your opportunities for internships?
So I'll talk on this one real quick. I did not get an internship until this past summer was my first one. And especially with COVID, thankfully, like, they still had it, but if they didn't, I was like, oh my gosh, like, how am I gonna get a job? And so I don't think, like, don't be discouraged if you didn't have one. Like, I've only had one, and then I ended up loving the company, and even if I didn't love the company, it was great experience that I know I could have taken with me, and I only had it my junior year. So don't be discouraged if you, like, hadn't gotten one. And, like, especially right now, I don't know how the internships are going with kids trying to find them, us trying to find them, like, as students. I don't really know how that's been going with IR and everything. Just, like, don't be discouraged, and, like, just keep applying and everything. I think I would apply to so many, and it gets really tiring and annoying, but, like, you increase your chances when you apply to more. Like, your chances go up. So even if you don't really know what you want to do, like, just keep applying. And then when you do, like, get an interview with someone, really do your research, and, like, just be yourself too, because if they don't want to hire you for you, then, like, you probably don't want to work there. But I guess my main point is, like, I only had one my whole college career, so it's okay. Like, don't feel discouraged if you don't get one until your junior year or something. That is to say, though, like, keep trying and apply to as many as you can. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I can kind of say that internships aren't the end all be all. So there's a lot of different opportunities that you can spend your summer doing. So either doing research, taking additional classes. This past summer when my original internship was canceled, I thought I was done for, like, I wouldn't find anything else. So I started a student organization and was super involved in helping to get people involved with tangible work experience. So just looking for anything that can get you closer to your future goal, and it doesn't always have to be a work experience. And just being aware of the opportunities that Purdue is presenting. So, like, they did Project X this summer. I know they're still continuing those projects over the year. So there's a lot of things that are going on campus over the summer that will help build your resume, help build your experience, and give you an opportunity to learn what you do and don't want to do without having a company on your resume.
Kind of building off that, when we suggest classes and things like that, I think one of the most beneficial things I did this past summer was take a biomedical ethics class, because I'm really interested in healthcare. And then when I went to those companies, I was able to bring up different perspectives, not just like in engineering, but I talked about, the morals behind different medical devices and things like that, and how that can be taken. And so, like, having a very, like, fresh, different perspective on something from a class you took over the summer can impress a recruiter just as much as an internship experience. So if you want to do something kind of specific, kind of find those oddball classes that's going to make you kind of stand out as a candidate for an opportunity.
Yeah, and kind of jumping off of that, if you are still looking at internships, which they are still great experiences, you can kind of, like, spin what you've done in your classes as not full work experience, but, like, I got my first internship by spinning, like, my freshman first year engineering project as, like, oh, it's kind of like work experience, and I, like, explained, like, project-based experience, and that's kind of what I used to get my first internship. And you'll find that once you get one, it is a lot easier to get a second or a third. The first one is definitely the hardest to get. And then another thing would be just anything you can do to create some other connection with the company is going to be really helpful. The hardest thing to do is just to, like, submit your application into the vacuum and then, like, hope something happens. That's, like, the least successful route to go for getting an internship. Like, meet up with another student that had the internship and, like, ask them tips for the application, or, like, if you can get in contact with the recruiter through LinkedIn or through a club or something, like just having them know your name will automatically like kind of get you pulled out of like the big swirling universe of resumes, and anything you can do to kind of get that first little boost is going to be really helpful.
One more point, kind of building back off of that one, especially if you're going to like a face-to-face career fair. I know they're not really like in person anymore with COVID, but anything you can do beforehand so you walk up prepared to talk to that recruiter is so important. Like I think my junior year I went to a career fair and I talked to the company I applied online before, and they pretty much handed me a piece of paper and said, okay, go home and apply online. And I said, I've already done this step. What can I do now? And then I got an interview because I already took the initiative beforehand to take 20 minutes and apply online, and I was already prepared, and I kind of turned it around on them, and that's what got me further in the process. So it's really important to make sure you're prepared walking into a face-to-face situation with someone.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Cindy, anything else? You're doing awesome, by the way. We appreciate the question.
Yeah, I think that's it. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah, no worries. I'll toss a few in as well. So we'll just kind of go around the room here. And what class was the hardest for you, and kind of why? I feel like we're going to get a consistent answer here, but we'll go in the same order as we did intros, and we'll see how it turns out.
Oh, go ahead, Katie.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I mean, 332 is a lot of work. I will say I have a CS minor, so I didn't find 332 to be like the most difficult topic-wise, because a lot of the stuff that's covered in 332 was covered in my like intro to CS classes, but it definitely is a lot of work. But like most difficult in terms of content for me was IISE 201. I just like, for whatever reason, like circuits like do not compute in my brain. Like I've never been able to get them. So like circuits was the hardest material wise, but 332 is definitely the most work. But it's also very worth it. You learn a lot.
I was also going to say 332, as Katie mentioned. I think 332 is one of those classes where you're learning a lot of really foundational things that you'll be using at your internships or likely in your career, even if it's just little bits and pieces of, like some kind of data analysis or some kind of programming. So it was a really, really important class where we learned a lot of material. There was one point where I was literally in our professor's office hours, like in tears, because it was extremely stressful for me. But like now I do research with him, and like I feel like that kind of shows that like the class was extremely difficult when I was in it, but it was also extremely foundational. And I feel like I grew a lot from taking that class to now actually being able to like have a, relationship with that professor and like assist him in research. So definitely the most difficult class, but I think also like the class where I grew the most during my time at Purdue.
I'm going to change it up, and I'm actually going to say 484. I'm taking it this semester with Professor Nuff, and he really values real world experience. And so we have case studies in that class, and he makes them very realistic. It brings a lot of those raw industrial engineering topics up, and so like the class content itself is extremely relevant and stuff you'll be using across any industry. But those case studies are a big challenge. I think the class is not hard, but it's a lot of work. It's almost on the same level as 332. Not quite there, but yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that 332 and IISE 201 were the most challenging. However, I think something to remember with industrial engineering is that it is incredibly broad. So you end up taking a lot of courses in areas that you may or may not be as interested in. So for example, like IE 335 was like one of the most boring subjects to me, and I struggled every time there was an exam to sit down and actually learn the material because I just didn't want to. And so you'll find a lot of those courses within your time in IE, the ones that you just know may or may not fall into what you do as a career. And so they become challenging purely because you don't want to learn the material because it's not interesting.
So mine's going to be completely different and not even an IE course. For me, Calc 2, honestly, I don't understand Taylor series. I don't get sequences, and I still to this day don't. And I made it here, and I will never use them, have not used them since, never bothered to learn them. So that's probably why it was really difficult for me. Yeah, second semester freshman year. Also, I think a lot of what makes a class difficult can be what else is happening. So I had 18 credit hours and joined like 2 organizations that semester, which probably made it a lot more difficult and gave me less time to learn it. But yeah, Calc 2.
I'm on the ECE and 332 bandwagon for the same reasons.
Awesome, thanks guys. Another one would be, what would you have changed over the course of your college career if you had to do it all over again? And I'll leave it open to whoever wants to speak on it. I won't force everyone to speak on it.
I wish that I had actually done a study abroad. It was kind of one of those things where like I always wanted to do it, but I kind of kept putting it off, and then eventually it was too late. And I just like didn't have enough time, and then there was a pandemic, and then I really didn't have enough time. So I wish that I had like planned for that sooner so that I actually could have done it.
I kind of felt like I wish I had more confidence in my choice of industrial engineering, because if I'm being honest, until this year, I did not think it was the right major, and I've been questioning it ever since. So I felt like sophomore year, I just kind of ended up in industrial engineering by default. I just said none of the other ones seemed interesting, so I guess we'll run with this. So I certainly wish I felt more confident about my choice, because then I might have felt a little bit more connected to the material, and maybe have done a little bit better in some of my courses because I knew it's the career path that I was going to take. So that just having more excitement for what industrial engineering can actually offer earlier on in my career at Purdue would have been really nice.
I wish I joined IISE sooner. So I joined second semester of my junior year, which is like very late. And so I had a friend in it since first semester of her sophomore year, and she always told me to, and I kind of like Katie, I kept pushing it off. And then like the very last semester I did. And I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? The community is so great, and there's such great resources for classes and just like the social aspect. It's a great support system just throughout college, and I really wish that I joined sooner. So I know you're sophomore, Cindy. Definitely something to consider moving forward.
Awesome, thanks everyone. Oh, sorry, go for it, Harrison.
Now we can move on.
Okay. The next question would be, how did you decide between companies when you had multiple offers? If that was the case for anyone, feel free to jump in on it.
I mean, the obvious answer that like people want you to say is like do what you love, but there are other factors along with that. One, money is important, and it always will be. And 2, location. Where do you want to live? Because your first job is probably going to be where you end up living. So I think the most important is what you want to be doing and what you want to be doing long term in your career, but also kind of take into account where you're moving to and where your base salary is going to be, because that's where you start and you can only move up from there. So if you start 10K higher than some other job, that's where you're starting and you can move up.
Kind of related to what I said earlier, but I think seeking a variety of experiences is really valuable. And I have a brief story for why I think this. So last spring, or like I guess 2 springs ago at this point, I interned with Disneyland, and that was like my dream internship. I wanted it so bad. And so I got that internship and I was so excited. And then they offered to have me for the spring and summer, but I had an offer from PwC for the summer. And I decided, even though it was my dream internship and I wanted to be there as long as possible, I decided to take PwC for the summer to see like the variety of things. And I was like, oh, I wasn't sure if it was the right decision or anything. Flash forward a year. Disneyland has been closed for 6 months and they are not hiring anytime soon. So there is no way that I'm going to get a job at Disneyland, but because I had the PwC internship, I now have a starting job right out of college that pays really well. And if I hadn't taken the PwC internship, I would be like, you know, up the river without a boat or whatever they say. Like, I would be in a much worse place right now. So I think seeking the variety of experiences, even though like if there's one company and you're like, oh, I want to work there so bad, like definitely try it, but don't limit your options to just one thing, because maybe there'll be a global pandemic and they won't be hiring for like 2 years. And then you're just going to want to have some other experience.
I have a story very similar to Katie's, where I had a return offer to go back to Procter & Gamble for the summer after my junior year as well. But it's one of those things where you kind of ask yourself, you know, an internship is the time when you're supposed to be learning what you want to do and learning what experiences are the most interesting to you. And so I actually took an internship at a small consulting firm last summer, so I could learn if I liked consulting, work on a variety of projects, kind of figure out if I like to travel with work, all those types of things. It was canceled, as was a lot of other things, but even interning at a small grocery chain was good for me just to experience something different. And so kind of just basically agreeing with what Katie said, just taking internship experiences where you learn a lot, I think is the most important thing. I mean, I think P&G probably paid more than the small grocery chain, but I learned, I think, a lot more just working at a different company and working in a different type of environment. So yeah.
You also are allowed to make mistakes or do things that may not be in other people's best interests. So at the end of the day, this is your journey. So it's okay to be selfish, respectfully selfish, I guess. So like sometimes you need to like make decisions that are for your best career path. And if it's not in the best interest of a company, it's okay because it's your career, it's your life. So if you're balancing the idea of multiple offers, be selfish. Like it's a career, like especially your first job is where you're starting off. It sets the groundwork. So it's okay to change your mind. Same with internships, same with co-ops. You don't have to finish a co-op if you don't enjoy the experience, things like that. So just keeping that into consideration, that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to change your mind, do it in a respectful manner, and be selfish. Like it's your life, it's your experience.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Super insightful. One more, and then I'll have everyone kind of answer it, and then we'll call it, and I'll send you guys off because you've been great. What was your biggest success over your college career, and kind of why? You could explain a little bit.
Are we talking like at Purdue, or like are we including internships? Like
honestly, anything you feel solid about. It's totally balls in your court. Pick whatever you want.
Okay. The thing that I was most proud of was actually during my Disneyland internship. There was a restaurant that was having like one very specific problem, and nobody could figure out like why their orders kept getting mixed up. And it was just this one place, and no one could figure it out. And I like spent my whole co-op looking at it. And like in the last couple weeks of the co-op, I figured out like on my own how they, like what they were messing up and why they were the only location. And it came down to like the number of printers that they had. It was like a really weird specific thing, but nobody else had figured it out, and I had. And like everybody was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And I was like, thanks. I was so excited. I felt like so smart. I was like, oh my gosh. So that was like the peak of like, I figured it out. Heck yes. Like I know what I'm doing. It was really great.
I can go. So at the end of my co-op, Kimberly Clark puts a huge emphasis on like end of term presentations. And so there's a lot of pressure to like use animations and like make it kind of funny and like make it very professional. Like they're very intense about it. As someone who sometimes like stutters or repeats words or can't pronounce things or talks really fast, I was like extremely nervous for that. And they normally last like anywhere from 30 minutes to 45, sometimes up to an hour. So it's literally just you in a room full of other co-ops and full-times explaining your entire term's work. And me just like completing that presentation and getting questions and getting, you know, really positive feedback about the way I explained things and just my work overall, like the quality of it, and having, you know, my team say thank you to me. Like that was really like a huge accomplishment. Probably like the most successful thing I've done, just because it was 7 months of like real world experience wrapped into a 40-minute presentation, and the focus was all on me, and so I didn't crack or anything, which was very stressful. But once it was over, I was really relieved, and then also just proud that I had actually done that and lived up to the expectation. So
one of probably my biggest accomplishment at Purdue so far was starting the Boilermaker Consulting Group. It's really rewarding because all of the work that I put into over the summer was able to provide tangible work experiences to 40 students that were impacted by COVID-19 in their professional career paths. Like any internships that they had planned were canceled or altered in some way. So being able to provide additional experiences, and then now being able to expand that club to over 100 people and being able to continue that impact has been so incredibly rewarding. And it started from the pandemic, and it created something really good. And I personally think it led me to where I'll be starting my career, which is just incredible. So certainly something I'm very, very proud of, and am very grateful for the opportunity and for the fact that Purdue has an environment where I was able to do that and be able to accomplish that for so many people.
So mine's going to be kind of less of an event or like a specific thing, but I would say the thing that I'm most proud of or most happy with at this point in my college career is the network and connections I've been able to make at Purdue, and then professionally as well. I focused a lot, like my sophomore and junior year, on just getting to know people and meeting people so that in the future, I'd have the opportunity to continue doing cool things with them, because you want to make sure you know as many people anywhere, because you never know where you're going to end up. And for me, kind of what that's culminated in for this semester and over the COVID period is I've had the opportunity to help a lot of people connect with either full-time jobs or people who would help them guide them to what they want to do. And that's just through who I've met along the way at Purdue. And it's something I'm pretty proud of, that I've had the opportunity to help a lot of students get internships and full-time jobs this semester that they're really happy with.
I'll kind of go kind of the same route as Harrison. Mine's not necessarily like an event or a specific thing that I've done, but I'm just pretty proud of myself for like making it through last year. In all honesty, I was an RA on for a floor of 52 freshman girls, and just like balancing junior year of industrial engineering with like the needs and desires of like 52 freshmen was extremely challenging at times, especially then like when COVID hit and having to deal with all the different things that were changing, and then like losing an internship and trying to find a new one, all while again like having, you know, like 52 freshman girls kind of knocking at my door pretty often. It was a big challenge, but like Lauren said, I think like being an RA and having those experiences led me to the job that I'll have after graduation. So I'm most proud of myself, I think, just for making it through last year, and then kind of getting to senior year in one piece, ready for graduation.
I can talk a little bit. So I think my proudest moment was, so the internship that I got out in Colorado, I was like really excited for. I was gonna actually be in quality, and then like last minute they were like, hey, we actually we want to change you into systems. How do you feel about that? And I was like, okay, like I like did not know anything about rockets or like NASA, like anything. I was really interested in it, but like all the technical stuff I didn't know anything about. And so like I went into that summer, and every single day I was learning something new from either people at ULA or people I would call or email with at Boeing or Lockheed Martin or NASA. And like I like made so many connections and met so many people, and I was really proud of myself, I think, for like being so willing to learn, because I was really, really intimidated by a lot of those people. A lot of them were a lot older than me and also much smarter. And so not a lot of IEs at those companies. So it was really intimidating to be like, yeah, I'm an industrial engineer. And they'd be like, what are you doing? And so I don't know, it was really cool to like kind of see myself grow and like gain more confidence, I think, over the summer. So then the project that they put me on, and then I was able to like present to all these like big wigs and like tell them about stuff. I was basically like, this is like what you're doing wrong. And at the end of the presentation, one of the program managers was like, hey, can I talk to you afterwards? And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna just get ripped apart. Like they're gonna fire me, like without even firing me because I'm an intern. And they were like, we loved this. Like, we really want to like see what you're doing with this. Like, have you gotten an offer yet? And I was like, oh, okay, like sure. And so I got to like talk to even more people about it. And I think that to me, since like I hadn't had an internship before, I was like so scared for this one. And I don't know, that was like a big confidence boost. So I just like am proud of myself for, I don't know, going out of my comfort zone to learn and like ask questions to people who were like really intimidating and much smarter. But everyone usually was pretty nice and willing to learn. So yeah, that was probably my proud moment.
Josh, what are you most proud of?
I would say that this past summer, working for PepsiCo, we had an entire summer-long project where we had to pitch at the end kind of our solution to the problem they gave us to different levels of executive teams. So they had 1,000 interns and every team had 6 people. So there were hundreds of teams. And so there were different levels of who you pitched your idea to, and then you moved on to the next one. And we made it all the way to the very final round. So we weren't #1 team, but we did make it to the very end and got to pitch to the senior executives and the vice president, which was really cool. And super nerve-wracking, but that was probably the thing I was most proud of. It was fun to get there and to get to talk to them. And at the end, we kind of got to ask them a few questions. And that was a ton of fun for me. So anyways, thank you all for all of your awesome answers to everything. We'll wrap it up. Thank you, Cindy, for coming. Thank you, everyone that is going to watch this. This was great, and I really appreciate all of you. So we'll wrap it up from here.